receiver. Let me share with you a passage from the Lamsa version of the Bible, a direct translation from the Peshitta written in the Aramaic language of Jesus. 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 6 to 7. He who sows sparingly shall reap sparingly, and he who sows generously shall reap generously. God loves a cheerful giver. Ernest Holmes wrote, "When we speak the words of thanksgiving to the God within, there is something in this attitude of thanksgiving that carries us beyond the field of doubt into one of perfect faith and acceptance, receptivity, realization. Appreciation, gratitude, and thanksgiving are the motive power which attracts and magnifies the hidden potentialities of life. Let's affirm with gratefulness together the following. There
There's nothing that separates me from the river of life that flows through me when I generously give and I gratefully receive."
Thank you. And now it's my pleasure to reintroduce our dear Reverend Kathleen.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Linda. It's beautiful, beautifully read. I'd like to begin with one of my favorite Thanksgiving stories. So some of you who've been with me for a long time will recognize this one. There was a young man by the name of John who received the gift of a parrot. And every word that came out of this parrot was negative, cynical, and laced with profanity. So John was beside himself. He didn't know what to do, so he decided he would speak to the parrot with kind words. He would play soft music to try to keep the parrot calm and relaxed, but nothing worked. And so he finally decided to yell at the bird. He just yelled at the bird, and the bird yelled back at him. And then he just got so angry, he lost control. And he took the parrot and he stuck him in the freezer. And the parrot kicked and screamed and squawked and carried on for a while. And then suddenly it was very, very quiet. And John got very worried. So he opened the freezer door and the parrot jumped onto his arm and looked at him with wide eyes, and he basically said, I'm sincerely sorry for all of my transgressions, and I fully intend to be a more grateful and cheerful parrot. So John, stunned by the behavior, wondered what on earth created the change, to which the bird responded, "May I ask what the turkey did, who's still in the freezer?" Yes. Just a little bit of lightheartedness, but yet the message is very powerful and clear in that story. And I'm going to use it actually as part of the unfolding of the deeper meaning behind this thing called the law of circulation, the law of giving and receiving. We've all been taught to be a cheerful and grateful giver, right? That's been part of our upbringing. And yet I know that if we don't balance it by also being a grateful and cheerful receiver, that things get really out of balance in our lives, don't they? And things like burnout can take place. So this is what I'd like to share with you. It's a quote that I love by Ernest Holmes. He said, "The universe gives alike to all. Its nature is to impart, and ours is to receive." It's important that we really get this message today, what it means to be a grateful and cheerful receiver. So how receptive are you to the goodness of life? Think about it. When people give you compliments, when there are opportunities before you and you decide for one reason or another not to take them, there are lots of different, or maybe somebody gives you a gift or something, and instead of being thankful, you look for what's wrong. There are all different ways that this happens, where we rebuff or cut off our ability to receive. So, we live, move, and have our being in this universe that operates under this law of circulation. So, a great example is our breath. On each in-breath, we receive from the universe, right? And on each out-breath, we give out oxygen. Carbon dioxide. There's a little oxygen. Give out carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide is received by the plant kingdom, and they thrive on it. And then their form of exhale is oxygen, which again supports us. This beautiful circulation that takes place all the time without us even thinking about it. And every other aspect of our lives also operate under this law. And so it's important to start being aware this week. I'm going to invite you to do that, of the ways in which you're truly living in the flow of this law of giving and receiving. Are you holding back in any way? Are you cutting off in any way? So today I want to talk about three spiritual practices that will increase your ability to be a grateful and cheerful receiver. The first one is, and this one's obvious, gratitude, the practice of gratitude and appreciation. The second one is something you may not be quite as much aware of, or not even realizing the connection to receptivity, and that is the practice of vulnerability. And the third one is what we're going to be doing all day today, and particularly in the second service, the practice of celebration. Yes, celebration is a spiritual practice. So gratitude. I wanted to start with this quote by Emerson. He advises that we get our bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuits being that flow of the river of life through us and as us. Get our bloated nothingness out of the way. The parrot is a great representation of this thing called our bloated nothingness. That cynicism and negativity and ingratitude that he was before he transformed when he came out of the freezer. So what does that represent? That represents the egoic self, right? The self that thinks it's separate from its good, or thinks it has to get its good by taking it from others. Or just that grumpiness that we might feel from day to day because we think we're not getting our good. That egoic behavior is the bloated nothingness that gets in the way of the divine circuits, that circulation of the very substance and the giftedness of life. So what is the antidote? Very obvious, because this is what we're talking about right now. Gratitude, appreciation, thanksgiving. That's the antidote for that cynical, negative view of life. So the more we practice this, and I love gratitude lists. I'm doing gratitude lists every night. That's a support, but also being grateful and noticing the good and the beauty throughout your day. Here's a great example. Dan and I were taking a walk through Brandywine Creek State Park this last Friday. And, if you remember, Friday was this amazing day, perfectly crystal clear blue sky. And so I was just in awe and wonder of the blue sky and talking about how grateful I was for it. And so we continued to walk in just the forest, even though the leaves are gone, and just the beauty of the trees and the sounds of the birds. I could just go on and on and on. And then we finally made our way down and came upon the Brandywine Creek. and the Brandywine River. And as I looked out upon it, actually Dan and I both looked, we were in a state of wonder because the creek, which is usually pretty, bouncy and lots of movement in it, was completely crystal clear. Yeah, it was moving, but you could barely tell that it was moving because the wind was non-existent. And so the reflection of all the trees on the opposite shore and the blue sky was just amazing, amazing. And I was thinking about the idea of what we reap, we sow, and when we are able to, just like the beautiful, calm creek or river reflecting the beauty, that when we also provide that in consciousness, how that reflects out in our lives. And just feeling so grateful for the messages that Mother Earth gives us, and just for the amazing beauty of that moment. So those are some just everyday examples of how we can find beauty all around us. And it doesn't have to be something that dramatic to find the beauty. It's the people that are in front of us, the people in our lives, this entire beautiful spiritual community. And a really great opportunity, I'm going to invite everybody that's on this Zoom and everybody who sees it in Facebook, is to go to our Facebook page, the Center for Spiritual Living Delaware page. You search it in the search box when you get to Facebook. Go there and then take the time to listen and make comments on all of the beautiful things that have been posted for the past 10 days. Just even if it's just a quick thank you or a like or something like that. A way to show your appreciation for all of the artwork, the poetry, the music, the words of congratulations, all of the beauty that shows up on that webpage, giving thanks for it. Because it's a beautiful demonstration of the amazing love that is present in our community and the way in which we touch the lives of others who are no longer a part of our community, people like Stephen Wise, or people who come and go and consider themselves an extended part of our community, like Bob Simon and Shannon Plummer, and many others who showed up, and Retta Morgan, many others who just showed up for this particular occasion to wish us congratulations. It's very heartwarming, a great way to lift your spirit, and a great way to give thanks to them for taking the time to do that. Second practice, practicing vulnerability. Brene Brown is the queen of research when it comes to this thing called vulnerability. She researched with thousands of people and found that 15 to 20% of those people were wholehearted in receiving and giving love. That's what it's all about, right? She said that they were all in when it comes to relationships, and that they inherently believed themselves to be worthy of love and belonging without having to do anything special for it. And then she mentioned that the other 75 to 80% of people on the planet feel that, maybe I'm a bit worthy for love and belonging, but I would be super worthy if I lost 20 pounds, or if I got that promotion, or if I got that new job, or if I had more money flowing in my life. You fill in the blank. So if you notice this in yourself, you might want to ask yourself the question, is it true that I'm not going to be worthy until I have all this other stuff in my life? Or am I inherently worthy as an expression of the Most High God, an emanation of the Most High God? And I think you'll know the answer if you contemplate that question. Wholehearted lovers also are willing to be vulnerable, to share their feelings and to feel their feelings, rather than hide or suppress them. And author Debbie Blue observed this about those 80 or 75 or 80% who aren't in that category. She said, maybe we worship power, trying our hardest to project strength and invulnerability because we are afraid of something that we don't really need to be afraid of, something that we would do better to embrace, like vulnerability at the core of our humanness. Perhaps being open to this is precisely what makes peace and love and cooperation possible. It is this openness to vulnerability that allows us to receive God. And Rumi, one of my favorite poems of Rumi's is The Guest House. You'll probably remember that one, where he talks about our humanness, our human nature is a guest house, and how we are to welcome all of the emotions, yes, even depression and anger and all of those, welcome them in instead of push them away and shove them down, because we can learn from them. We can learn what's behind them, the thoughts, the beliefs that are behind them, so that we can transform our lives. So being vulnerable with each other, with trusted friends, and is so important to being a receiver, a grateful and a cheerful receiver. The final one is practicing celebration. Yes, I love that one. So I have a story to tell you. It's a story about a new young monk who arrived at the monastery, eager and ready to do his part. And he was he was actually assigned to work with the other monks to copy down manuscripts of laws and canons. And so when he got to work, he noticed something that was a little disturbing to him. He realized that they were copying off of copies. They were not copying off original manuscripts. So he went to the abbot, the old abbot who was in charge, and he pointed this out. And the abbot thought about it, and he said, you really have a point, son. So he went down into the cave underneath the monastery where there was a locked vault. And in that locked vault were the original manuscripts that had not been touched for centuries and centuries, a really long time. So meanwhile, the young monk is waiting and waiting and waiting, and the monk, the abbot, doesn't return, and so he finally decides, I better go down and see what's going on down there. So he goes down the stairs, down into the cave, and then he sees the old abbot there banging his head against the wall and saying, no, the word is not celibate, it's celebrate. A copying error. So how many errors are we going, the error that we have is to somehow think that we have to celebrate only on very special occasions, when there are so many little things that we can celebrate each and every day. And the beautiful gift of celebration is the feeling of joy. Celebration cultivates joy. And I was thinking about celebration, and I thought, now how does that fit into gratitude? And I was thinking, oh yeah, celebration is when a whole bunch of people get together, or maybe just a few people, a group of people get together and feel grateful for whatever it is, an accomplishment or just life and living. But it's when we get together and share our common gratitude for life and living. And joy is what's birthed out of that. I think that this idea of living full out joy is somehow not on everybody's radar screen. And I think you're not alone if you're among the people who feel that way. And I was looking at some of the scriptures on joy, and I have a feeling that this is why the scriptures actually command people to celebrate and to express joy. I mean, listen to some of these. This is just a few out of Psalms. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord. Yeah, that's one we probably have heard of. Shout for joy to the Lord, all the earth. Burst into jubilant song. How many of us burst into jubilant song and instead start worrying about, well, is my voice good enough, or whatever is going on in our minds? Burst into jubilant song. It doesn't matter whether you're on key or off key. That practice of singing brings joy to the spirit, and particularly singing with a whole big group of people. At 1 p.m. today, we have the opportunity to wholeheartedly celebrate our amazing, beautiful, full of grace, creative, spiritual community, steeped in the love of God, co-creating heaven on earth, a world that works for all. What we stand for is really leading edge. Think about it. Leading edge, it's about what it means to live in unity and oneness consciousness. And isn't that what's being asked for in our world? So I invite you all, when you join us now, here and now, but also when you join us at 1 o'clock, that you come with your joy hats on and your celebration hats on. Because what we have to celebrate, 10 years, one full decade, is pretty awe-inspiring. And what's even more awe-inspiring is who we've become. And I really love that, and I really honor that. And I want to thank all of you for being who you are and what you contribute to our spiritual community. So we all seek a deeper relationship with the divine, yes?
Mm-hmm.
That feeling of love and peace and joy that we get when we know that we're fully in touch with the inner divine and the divine all around us. And yet we must be willing to receive it. To be a cheerful and grateful receiver as well as giver, a receiver. Let's remember the importance of the practices of gratefulness, looking for the good everywhere, the beauty everywhere, and feeling gratitude for it. Let's remember the practice of vulnerability, of being willing to unburden ourselves with of all the feelings and being allowing ourselves to have room then for the good to flow through. And let's remember the importance also in vulnerability of tenderness and care and empathy. And let us celebrate this 10th anniversary then from the deepest place of joy and love that we possibly can muster. And also this Thursday, when we gather, whether it's remotely or in person with our families and friends, let's remember to show up with all-out joy. And to this I say, yes, and so it is. Thank you, my friends. Yes, and so I'm now going to turn this back over to our dear friend,